Alright everybody, first let me say I apologize twofold. One, for taking so long to get another piece of content out, and two, for this not actually being the Thor Frost guide that I was talking about doing. That is still coming, but I wanted to get this out first because it's been delayed a little too long. So I wanted to take a look at the game Godfall. This was a game that wasn't really on my radar at first, and initially I just kind of passed over it due to some personal salt, as AMD released a bundle where you get a graphics card, and you get the game, and I had previously bought the graphics card a little bit before they did the bundle, so I was a little salty, I'll admit. However, in picking up the game and actually playing it, there is a lot about it that I just love. First of all, aesthetically, it's a very polished game. You can tell they put a lot of love into it, and it just looks and plays wonderful. Now, it is a very demanding game if you're playing it on PC. The lower specs that it recommends, like the lowest tier that you can use, I honestly wouldn't even recommend that the lowest tier, because it'll be kind of hard to play. You'll see some stuttering, you'll see some frame drops, things of that nature. So the closer you are to the tier that it says, if you're playing on PC, of course, this is only applicable if you're playing on PC, that says the recommended, then that's honestly what I would go with. That's not to say you can't play it on lower settings, of course, to make it easier for you, but let's get into the nitty-gritty as to why this video is actually being made. So check it out. First things first, would I recommend this game? Yes, I would absolutely recommend this game. So if that's what you came to the video for, to see if I would say yes or no to that, you can stop it here if you don't want to hear anything else as to why or what is the reason for me saying that. Going into a little bit more detail as to why, though, I will start with the cons. I'm going to start doing that as well, so you'll notice a pattern. I'm going to start with the negative and end with the positive, because there's always negative and positive with these things. It's not always just 100% positive. The combat, let's talk about that first. So initially, the combat seems very fluid, but there are some things about it that can be kind of dismaying to people going into it that are very familiar with action RPGs or just brawlers of this nature, and it's pretty glaring in what they are. If you're familiar with animation canceling, where you say take a swing at something and then you cancel it out into a dodge, for example, that is not done in this game. Whereas, I apologize, that's slightly a lie. It can be done, but it can only be done in one very specific way. One way that doesn't always show itself and make you able to be able to do it. The way you can animation cancel in this game is simply by performing an execution. But in order to do that, you have to build up their stun and actually have them stunned. So up until that point, unless you have a build that does high stun damage, you are not going to be able to animation cancel. You cannot swing and then dodge out of it. The closest thing you can do is swing, and then immediately once the animation finishes, you can dodge out of it. You can do quick inputs from finished animations, but you cannot do animation cancels. And for a fast-paced game, that can actually hinder the combat a little bit, regardless of how great it looks. Another thing that this game has going for it as far as the combat in the negative sense is the stun lock. And what I'm talking about with that is, if you'll notice, when you fight enemies, you can stun them and they're down for a time. However, with you don't necessarily get stunned and you're set to be down where you drop to your knees. What happens with you as the player is you become locked in this animation of stagger. So you get staggered, you get hit, and then you'll sway back a little bit. But this small moment, this like 0.5 seconds that you do this, leaves you open to another hit, and another hit, and another hit. This can cause you to get swarmed really easily and taken down really fast. Even the most adept players can end up experiencing this and fall kind of out of love for it, or just, at the very least, become very frustrated with the game in that moment. Now, of course, once you get good with dodging and parrying and things of that nature, this will not become a problem, but you might slip up once or twice, especially when you're doing the towers, which we'll touch on those in just a second as to what they are, and all the progress is just gone because you made a mistake, and it's just done. Now, this isn't something that will kill the game for you, but it is something that, can frustrate you with the game, so take that into consideration when going into it, that this does happen. And that, along with the animation cancel, are the only two things I actually find as a negative in the combat. So let's keep going. I have a few more negatives to point out before I go into the positives. So if you want to go into the positives, skip like 3 minutes ahead into this video. So the game itself, after you progress through it, and I will say this as quickly as I possibly can, if you're the type of person that just powers through games, like powers through the story mode, and that's it for you, this is not the game for you. The story mode is well told, but it is not entirely that long. This game is a looter at its nature, but it's more Diablo-esque, if you will, or even Path of Exile-ish. It's kind of like that in the same vein as to how it works without it being the same engine is, so to speak. What I mean by that is this. You play through the story, you finish it, and then after that, you work on getting the best gear that you can, powering it up, getting the certain build that you want to do specific things, and then going from there, trying to challenge harder areas and harder quest missions, things of that nature. It's no longer about the primary story and the main boss, it's more about how you build playing with others. And yes, you can play with others, however, that is another thing that I need to touch on as far as the negative portion of it. There is matchmaking, but it's not in the same sense that you would think, where you queue up to be matchmade. No. Instead, with this game, you have to make a party individually yourself. You start a party and you can invite friends. However, if you are in Discord or you're in a fan group, it's not that hard to find people to play with. But I do want to let it be known that the matchmaking is not the traditional sense of matchmaking, where you can actually join in on others with the game just out of nowhere. You actually have to queue in with people via inviting them or being invited yourself. Now, enough of that about the negative. Let's just hop into the positive, because I want to make this video kind of short and to the point. The story is told well. You are not actually gender locked, even though the main character starts off as a male. The armors themselves, the Valor Plates, which there are 12 in total, you can unlock throughout the game. None of them are DLC that you have to purchase. You can unlock them gradually as you play. Different ways to unlock them, and it's pretty unique as to what each one of them does. You have certain Valor Plates that are made for certain types of builds. You have tank Valor Plates, you have swift Valor Plates, you have Valor Plates that summon the homies to jump someone if you need assistance. Another thing this game has going for it that I absolutely adore is the banner system. You actually pull a banner out and slam it down. Within this area that the banner is laid down, it gives specific effects. These effects are listed in the banners that you pick up, so the banners themselves are gear as well that you loot off of enemies that you've beaten. You can get better banners, better weapons, doing higher difficulty quests and doing different types of quests. The towers I was talking about earlier, think of it as survival, except you're going straight up a tower and opening a door each time you go up the tower. Each door has a different thing that you have to do. Typically it's just murder everything, but some doors have more unique kind of deals with them. And based on what the inscription is on the door or the sigil that you see above the door, you will actually be doing, or not necessarily doing, but you will actually be getting that specific type of reward if you were able to complete the room. Now, if you die going up the tower, you die. Granted, you get chances, but they're very slim. I say that to say this, though. When it comes to the actual combat in the survival mode, it's very well paced. You do get, within the tower as it goes up, you do get kind of swarmed, but the tower itself, the elevator if you will, is wide enough for you to kind of recuperate what's going on if you get hit and you're kind of pushed back. There are many different builds that you can do in this game, and along with Marvel Avengers, I will be doing build guides just on things that I like to do with them. If you'll notice, I'm pretty big on damage over time, or like stun-ish sort of deals, but we'll dig into that in different videos. All in all, the game is very well done. I think that it's definitely worth your time. Maybe right now not purchase the deluxe version of it, if you will. It just comes with a few different skin colors for your Valor Plates and things of that nature. Nothing really too great. It does, if you get the full version, it does in fact give you access to the DLC expansion when they release it. It's not released yet, so when it is released, you don't have to purchase it again. By again, I don't mean the actual game. I mean you won't have to purchase the actual expansion itself. I guess it wouldn't be again. It would just be for the first time. I misspoke. My apologies. But either way, the game Godfall comes high on my recommendation list for new games that have come out recently. Not just because it's a great looking game, so to speak, and not just because the combat feels fluid and like it's done well. Simply, in truth, because it's a game that you can tell the developers put a lot into, and there's not a lot of issues that have come out of it. There's not a lot of bugs, there's not a lot of this, there's not a lot of that. There's honestly not a lot of negativity surrounding the game. There are very few things that I dislike about the game, which I've already mentioned. There are things that I think might upset some people. For example, getting to different areas is content locked. What I mean by that isn't that you have to purchase things to get into these areas. You have to actually go collect these items to get into the next area. Now, this is reminiscent of older single player games, though, where you have to go and find something just to unlock the next area. It's the same kind of deal, except it's not open world like a single player or a linear line like a single player. They're legitimately dungeons, if you will, on a map that you go into, and you unlock the next area by collecting the items off of that map. Of course, you have to find them. In some cases, the enemies drop them, or the map will tell you you'll be rewarded with this many of that item to get into the next area. For me, I like that because it reminds me of older games, and it kind of has a nostalgic hit to it. The game itself does not really have much nostalgia to it, but it does play on it a little bit with certain small things. All in all, I would feel that it's an action RPG just done on a different engine like the games I mentioned earlier, and I think it does what it's doing well. It can, you can burn out on this game though. I will say that, I will be completely honest. You can burn yourself out on it by just playing it and grinding it and grinding it and grinding it and doing nothing else. Because, again, the game's campaign is short. It's not that long at all. It's very well told. It's just short. Um, it has interesting characters though. You'll come to meet a few of them, especially the blacksmith, if you will. He's a pretty fun guy to interact with. But other than that, I think for those that don't mind the repetition of just mindlessly beating on things, you'll enjoy the game. And for other reasons as well that I have listed previously in the video, I think you would all like the game. Honestly, if you enjoy my content, you would probably like the game. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm not sure when I'll get the Thor one out, but it should be within this week. Things are going to be a little bit busy for me, especially with the holidays still going on. I'm trying to make sure things are done right here in the household. But we'll see. Hope to see you guys next time. Have a great day, morning, noon, or night, whatever it is, wherever you are.